And so the most difficult issue I had was getting confirmed. Because I think the members of the city council who did not like what the mayor was doing on schools, who did not like Michelle Rhee, who did not like other matters, figured knock off Nichols. And so there was a very concerted campaign to knock me off. One of the great virtues of my becoming the Attorney General was I did not need the job. I was an honest broker. And as I said at the outset, I won that confirmation by one vote, and I think the 2 or 3 folks who voted for me would have taken back those votes if they had seen what happened. And Phil was very consistent throughout. He voted against me and continued to vote against me, but he's a perfect gentleman, and I think a very wise choice, I must say, in my personal opinion, to be chairman. He's a decent, honest human being. We've disagreed a lot, but the city needs more decent, honest human beings. Phil, I just introduced you.
Phil, I'm going to let you just listen to this round and we'll come around to you last. And the question is, for you, Kathy, what is the toughest hurdle? What do you think will be the toughest hurdle for an elected Attorney General?
I think we've outlined already some of the huge challenges with someone coming into a job that will be very, very new and the listening and all of that. I think I'd rather answer a different question.
Okay.
I know you're going to ask the question, and then answer?
Yes, I want to just comment on something that was said earlier. I absolutely agree with Herb about the Hatch Act, and now that Phil is here, maybe we can talk about this a little bit more. I think when we all voted to have an elected Attorney General, I think it would be short-sighted for the council to not take that issue up, and I would just encourage that. So then I'll leave my question asked and answered.
Okay.
My toughest hurdles in this job are dealing with the city council, and that is in getting passed legislation that I think is appropriate and necessary for the city. And it starts with the number one item, which contradicts what Peter said at the beginning about our having access to a great panoply of information. The fact is that because of the actions of the City Council in the last several years, our office does not have subpoena power, does not have significant subpoena power across the board to deal with all those matters that I described when we first started. The notion of bringing criminal prosecutions in all these juvenile cases and the misdemeanor cases, bringing civil enforcement actions against people who are ripping off the city, and not having complete subpoena power that every other Attorney General in the other 50 jurisdictions of the country have is preposterous. And we need, that office with an elected Attorney General needs a complete subpoena power to operate appropriately. There are other things that the office needs to have, and because one of them I mentioned is having an apolitical, a nonpartisan election of the Attorney General. Another is, as Kathy just described, amending the Hatch Act to be sure that members of the office who've been there for many years could run for this office and serve the citizens of the district. There are other things that the city needs from the City Council with respect to limits on liability in certain circumstances and other matters that are in the city's best interest. That I think that as I've been, in my view, a completely apolitical, non-political Attorney General, and trying to give what is in the best interests of the city and of this office, and we have a very hard time, and I don't want to get into it right now, but the other issue that is on the table that Shelley mentioned, which relates to exactly what an Attorney General is going to do in relation to all those general counsel in the agencies and what structure is going to be, and make the way it's structured now, we will be eviscerating the office of the mayor by having 150 lawyers who are in the mayor's administration would be taking instructions on a day-to-day basis about what who will be hired, who will be fired, who will be promoted, how they'll be compensated, that will come from the elected Attorney General and not from the agency directors or the mayor. And we may have a situation that's very unfortunate of having a very dysfunctional government. So I think we need to look at those issues, and I suggest need to listen to the career people at the Attorney General's office and the non-political, the non-elected Attorney General without a political axe to grind about what's in the best interest of the city and how it should operate in the future. So that's been my biggest hurdle.
So I've been agreeing with Irv way too much tonight, so I'll take this opportunity to disagree with him. My biggest challenge when I arrived at the office was operational and structural. The Office of the Corporation Counsel, as it was known when I took office, lived under that name since I guess 1902, 1903, and had grown up in an ad hoc way. The organizational chart looked like a pile of spaghetti more than anything else. And so it took a while to streamline it, to flatten the management structure. I was left with a unionized lawyer staff, but with no collective bargaining agreement that had to be negotiated and finalized, and it was. And their salaries all came up comparable to, not exactly the federal government, but pretty close. So they were paid better. We struggled with resources. That continues to this day, as I understand it. I'm not there, but I get to see it from the other side, since I litigate against them from time to time. So mine was more operational. The other piece that dovetails on the other side of what Irv had to say was the lawyers in the agencies lived a bifurcated existence. And they reported both to the agency directors from a personnel standpoint and to the AG from a legal supervision standpoint. And it was sort of a middle ground between what used to be a decentralized operation with the agency council, and that Kathy Patterson helped put together in 1998, when she at least brought them under the legal supervision of the Corporation Council, and that we finalized with bringing them in on the personnel authority as well. Irv and I disagree, and we've done so at a hearing, about whether it makes sense for the new Attorney General, the elected Attorney General, to have the exact same authority that Irv has now, or whether the agency council should be handed back, not just to the mayor, but to the agency directors themselves. I personally think it's a huge step backwards and will lead to uneven legal services, division, discord, and it will increase the tension rather than decrease any potential tension between the mayor and the Attorney General. We're not here necessarily to debate that, but what I would say is that the challenge you're going to have all goes back, in my view, to organizational, structural, and relationships. That's what I faced when I was there. I think we each did in our own particular way. And the new elected Attorney General will be turning literally a whole new page on what this is all going to be, regardless of what piece of legislation ultimately makes it through the council, whether it's the one that's been proposed by Irv and the mayor, or whatever comes out of the council. It's going to have to be a new relationship, and I think that's going to be the challenge.
If I can just make a footnote here, what's most important about the difference between the time that Bob was there and the time even that I'm now here from what the elected Attorney General is, Bob was there, the mayor was his boss. He reported to him, and as Peter suggested, the mayor could fire the Attorney General without any cause. The legislation that Phil passed, that the council passed, Phil's direction, changed that a little bit with respect to my role, which is that now I can only be fired for cause. I hope nothing I've said tonight constitutes cause. We'll find out tomorrow, I guess. And so, but I still report to the mayor, and so do all the agency directors. So as things stood, both when Bob was there and Kathy passed this legislation, and even today as I operate, we're all rowing in the same direction, and we report to the mayor. When there is an elected Attorney General, he or she will be completely independent of the mayor, will have no interest in necessarily working under the mayor's direction, won't be under the mayor's direction. Obviously, will take the mayor's lead on certain matters like settlements and how much the mayor is willing to pay for a settlement, but in many other respects will have a different set of interests, including we have a